if any. Even Department of Education. I was trying to follow the president's press conference when he started naming different counties and how happy they're going to be. I don't know whether that meant he's going to give us the $5 or $6 billion we receive now in a block grant for us to allocate, so I can still put $2 billion toward Pell Grants, I can still put $2 billion toward school lunches, I can still fund programs for disability. I don't know that right now, and we're not going to know for quite a while. What we always have the opportunity to do is deal with the budget with the facts we have in front of us, but nothing prohibits us from coming back in a special session to deal with anything that comes our way from the federal government. But we're having conversations about, what cuts in education would do, what cuts in Medicaid would do, and also one is always optimistic that the 7 Republicans who claim to represent the state of New York in Congress, if people are vocal and get them to be more persuasive, if they banded together, they could stop a lot of this. You think about the House of Representatives, how close those votes are. If 7 New York members of Congress stood up and says, I don't want Medicaid cuts, I don't want this Social Security office cut in White Plains because seniors are going to have to travel dozens and dozens of miles. So we also have a responsibility to put them on the spot and say, what are you doing to make sure that your home state of New York is not hurt? But we always can come back and have another session if we need to.
Do you think it's wise maybe to be trying to put more money in an unallocated fund? Or I mean, I guess it's just when the cuts are so clearly coming, I appreciate the idea that you could come back, but you guys are hurtling forward with something.
I've said since day one, $93 billion will not be made up by the state of New York. It will not be made up by any state. And that is just unrealistic to think that'll be the case. It's not going to happen. We have said that over and over.
Nick?
To that point about a potential special session, or to come to something like that, is it possible that portions of the budget remain unresolved until, say, the summertime or something along those lines?
No.
And to follow up on that, mentioning the House Republicans, would you potentially be in favor of just kind of displaying to New Yorkers, here are the effects of these federal cuts on state spending? I mean, is that...
No, we already are. I've done a number of press events. I was at a hospital at St. Mary's with Congressman Meeks and Grace Lee when they first started talking about the Medicaid cuts and how devastating that'd be for a place that is often the last place any child goes to who's terribly ill. These are complex cases, and a lot of these kids are not going home. I stood there and says, can you imagine a member of Congress coming here and looking in the eyes of these children and their parents and saying, I'm going to Washington to cut Medicaid, which is what keeps your child alive? I will continue raising my voice loudly about the impact of cuts on families and on seniors. And we just spoke about it when I was at a school here in Albany, Friday, I think it was, talking about what it would mean if there were cuts in school nutrition programs and school lunch programs. A lot of these kids are going to have their stomachs growling throughout the day if they don't have that money. So I will always be the voice explaining to the residents of New York the impact of these changes. But given the dynamics in Washington, the power that 7 members of the majority party from our home state have cannot be underestimated, and they need to be called out to use their voices.
Caitlin?
Governor,